Right, SABC News reporter Chriselda Lewis was in court. So a very dramatic day, Chriselda. Just run us through how this played out in court today.
Well, Francis, it's not just the National Prosecuting Authority that was shocked here today. Certainly we were, and we were not really expecting this inside court. What we were back in court for on this particular day, you would recall, Francis, that the matter of jurisdiction was what was to be argued inside this court. That's what this date had been set for. But a couple of days ago, we had then known that the legal representation for accused number 1 to 4 were now going to abandon that application. And essentially, what had happened was that Advocate Malesela Teffo had written to the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Patoyi, basically asking that the charges against his clients be dropped. So he basically said that amongst the reasons he is calling for that is basically because his clients, he says, 2 of them had been coerced under duress to give confessions to killing Senzo Meyiwa, and also basically that 2 of the other accused had also been incarcerated at the time that Senzo Meyiwa was killed, incarcerated on other matters. So he basically says that those 2 clients couldn't have had a hand in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. So we were due back in court today on the issue of jurisdiction. Remember, he had basically argued that the High Court here in Pretoria was not the right court to try this matter, given that the crime scene itself had been in Vosloorus, and that perhaps the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg would be the appropriate court to try this particular matter. We knew then days ago that this was not going to happen. That was not going to be the argument inside this court. And basically he had informed the court this morning formally of the letter that he had written to the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And then, in another surprise move there, Francis, after that did not take place, we know that the National Director of Public Prosecutions at this point had not made a decision pertaining to this request by Advocate Malesela Teffo. Then came a letter that is believed to have been written by accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube, in which he basically said that he was being ill-treated at the Kgosi Mampuru prison here in Pretoria. Remember that he had been transferred in December of 2020 to this particular prison here in Pretoria from the Johannesburg prison, which is known as Sun City. And he says he was told that that was on the basis that he was now implicated in this matter involving the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. In that letter, he basically details saying that there's no telephones that are working at Kgosi Mampuru. He's unable to get hold of his legal representation when he wants to. He complains about not having a TV. He complains about not having a radio or access to newspapers and even other facilities to monitor the news. Those were some of the assertions that he made, also saying that for 23 hours of the day he is in solitary confinement and is only let out for 1 hour of the day. So we saw a judge Teffo Maumela basically dismissed that letter after accused number 3 had taken the stand and basically agreed that that was his letter. The judge basically saying he thought that what was being advanced inside this court was that there had been threats perhaps to the life of accused number 3, but nothing that he said on the stand or in that letter, according to the presiding judge, he said he felt he could rule on. So basically saying there was no merits for the letter that he had written, to such a degree that after that letter had been made known to this court, the availability of this letter, the area commissioner from correctional services as well as the head of Kgosi Mampuru had been brought to this court. They, however, did not take the stand. The presiding judge said he did not even want to get into cross-examination because he felt that the letter itself did not prove towards anything relating to the life of accused number 3 being threatened. But very early on in the proceedings today, when it became known that Advocate Malesela Teffo was not going to proceed with the jurisdiction application, the presiding judge lambasting him, basically accusing him of wanting to delay the court once again. You would know that this is not the first time that Advocate Malesela Teffo and the presiding judge have had a run-in together. Advocate Teffo has been accused of trying to bring multiple applications and delaying this court. Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who's representing accused number 5, you would also recall, that also said she was not allowed to continue with her cross-examination of the state's witness due to a number of issues that had been brought to the fore. We saw that exchange between Advocate Malesela Teffo as well as the presiding judge, and after the presiding judge had basically ruled that the letter itself from accused number 3 does not merit any concern in terms of any threats to his life at Kgosimampuru prison. After he said he gave that ruling, in that surprise move, the clip that you just played, Advocate Malesela Teffo basically lambasting the court, saying that he refuses to participate in this trial any longer. He felt that the judge was not being fair towards him, was not hearing him out, and in part of the exchange, in something that I must say I've never seen in my 19 years as a journalist inside this court, Francis, as well as you, Bongiwe, where you would see this kind of exchange between, I would say, members of the court, in which Advocate Malesela Teffo basically saying that he feels that the rights of his clients are being prejudiced, and that the court basically does not want to listen to anything that he has brought before this court, including what he now says is threats to his client's life. This would be accused number 3, who is responsible for that letter, which had become center stage inside this court. And then shortly after, he basically stood up, withdrew from the case. And this essentially, for the family of Senzo Meyiwa, just a moment ago, I had spoken to some of them on the telephone. They're absolutely shocked by what has taken place. While Advocate Malesela Teffo says he will now remain on this case just on a watching brief as instructed by Senzo Meyiwa, who is one of the relatives of the Meyiwa family. He then says that he refuses to be part of this particular case. Now, the matter itself has been postponed to the 2nd of August. Now, this is to try to see if the accused, 1 to 4, will be able to get legal representation. The 2nd of August will determine whether in September this particular matter will go ahead. Now, this matter has dragged on for so long. Senzo Meyiwa was killed in 2014. There have been multiple delays in this particular case. This would certainly result possibly in another massive delay for this case, which would mean that justice will be delayed for the family of Senzo Meyiwa.
All right, thank you very much, Chriselda Lewis. What a dramatic day in court, and she'll continue to follow the travails as that family waits for justice as this legal process plays out.